Cherish all the time you spend, you tuned into. It's time again. Cherish all the time you spend, you tuned into. It's the number one podcast. The topics of discussion when we broadcast. So all them artificial man jokes, we do it natural from the concrete to a public standpoint. Real, wherever you're from, life is coexistence, but to know the real, you just gotta listen. Wherever you're from, life is coexistence, but to know the real.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 52 Scott Podcast. I'm your host, K Money, and in the building with me, my co-host Slash, Freddie G, and Comedian 96. Collectively, we are the Mind of Men. You can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and or subscribe. Welcome, fellas, to another True Tuesday episode. Today's topic, man, is a story I actually saw on GMA last week. It's where, I don't know if you guys heard of Greg Brooks Jr. Have you guys heard of Greg Brooks Jr.?
No, Greg.
Okay,
I haven't.
He's a collegiate football player. About a year and a half ago, he was a potential NFL prospect. He was a captain of LSU's football team, and today he's wheelchair bound.
Wow.
Yeah.
What position he played?
He was a cornerback.
Okay.
You know, and I'm a fan of LSU, and I actually didn't even know who he was. But in September of 2023, he had reported being dizzy at a practice, and the team diagnosed him with having vertigo. So he sat out, and but the symptoms never really subdued. You know, so later on that season, he ended up undergoing surgery, and it was then he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and a rare brain tumor at that. This surgery was performed at Our Lady of Lake Hospital. You've heard of this hospital?
Yeah, that's a good hospital. My dad was in that hospital.
Oh, really?
Lady of the Lakes.
Yes.
That's in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Okay, and that's what currently. Not currently, but that is where LSU is located. Go ahead, Comedian 96.
I thought one of the stars were in there too. I want to say Jamie Foxx. I think it was Jamie Foxx. He was one of those hospitals. Sounded like that.
Yeah.
It could be him. Is one of the stars were in that same hospital, and they talked about that hospital over and over.
That's a good hospital, man.
Well, they're the ones that's one of the ones that's actually been named in the lawsuit along with the school. He's also suing the school for alleged negligence after undergoing the surgery for brain cancer. Now, let's go back a little bit prior to the surgery when he reported being dizzy. It was said that they threatened his starting position, which is what motivated him to want to continue to play. And I know several of us have played football, and we can understand and know how coaches can be tough and not take a injury that we may feel that we have serious to the point to where they actually need to take or seek medical attention. And this is the reason for him in suing LSU again for alleged negligence. And do you guys see any negligence in that aspect?
Well, you said it was a rare diagnosis of a tumor.
Well, this is before he had the surgery. The team, when he reported, they said he had vertigo, but it was actually something more serious than vertigo.
Yeah.
And they made him, they didn't necessarily make him, but, they kind of threatened his starting position and said, if you didn't go back in, basically you would not be starting again. So, of course, he did what I think any college athlete would do and went ahead and when you want to play, and it's not easy getting PT on a D1 school. So I can imagine, having your position or your spot threatened, going back in and playing, and unfortunately, possibly causing more damage to this this injury or this diagnosis that hadn't been diagnosed yet, the issue that had not been diagnosed yet, if that makes sense.
So, I would think that the brain tumor itself could cause vertigo if they haven't diagnosed of course, to do the brain tumor or whatever the case may be, they would have to do some kind of scan of the brain to see the tumor. But if you go to your coach and be like, hey, I'm not feeling well, I'm dizzy, blah, 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 and he sits out and he go to the trainers or whomever he talk to and they do whatever symptoms check, and all of those symptoms line up with vertigo, and they was like, oh, you have vertigo. So that's kind of a fine line of negligence, in my opinion, just based upon them saying that he had vertigo and he was misdiagnosed from the beginning.
Right.
Now, if it continued, there would be like, okay, he's still having this. Let's go further with our testing. And if they go further with their testing, then they can discover, okay, there's a brain. This is more than just vertigo. There's a brain issue here. There's a tumor on his brain. But initially, saying that he had vertigo, he probably did have vertigo. That tumor may have caused
the vertigo.
Right, and they probably did, like you said, Freddie G, that could cause vertigo. However, if he was consistently complaining about it, I think that's when they probably should have took the matter more serious and sought, further medical advice or treatment.
So most of those doctors are sports medicine, right? And he had a brain tumor. Unfortunately, I don't think they have brain specialists in sports. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, if you look at it this way, with concussions protocol being the way that it is, they got to have some brain doctors now. They've gotten to the point to where they even have guardian caps.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, you would have to have some kind of people that's familiar with, brain injuries on your staff in some way.
Yeah, I just thought about it. If it was a smaller college, I probably, but LSU's a pretty big college, so they pretty much need to have everything, especially for the kids. So
you say if it was a smaller college, what?
Yeah, if it was a smaller college, I could see how it. They probably don't have the resources as LSU.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that also. Yeah. But I do also feel that LSU definitely should have the technology.
They
medical
should.
Yeah,
well,
they should have everything.
Because LSU is being called the best in the country for nursing staff, you would think that they have all the necessities needed in order to diagnose somebody with something.
Right.
The right diagnosis, if nothing else.
It says during the surgery, Brooks Jr. had suffered several strokes, and now he's relearning to eat, walk, and write because of the operation. He'll never play football again, and the father seems to be extremely upset with the coach because he said the coach hasn't even reached out to the family and pretty much offered his sympathy for the I don't want to say diagnosis. He basically didn't show any sympathy and reach out to the family. And teams like this here, you're a family, and the coach at that time is the father of these boys. So you can imagine, if you cared about them, and I'm not saying that he didn't, but I would think that he would have reached out and just expressed how sorry he felt as well, because he should have been affected just like the family was. Right. I feel if your players mean that much to you.
Right.
Again, I saw this on Good Morning America, and coincidentally, Michael Strahan's daughter is also going through a issue with, and she was also diagnosed with a rare brain issue, and these two actually linked up and kind of were mentoring each other, which I thought was cool. He had never, Brooks that is, had never the support, basically. She was there basically and provided major support for him because, again, to go from being a star athlete to not even being able to walk, eating, and pretty much starting all over again could be a major shock, I can imagine.
Man, you can go into a deep depression.
Facts.
Now, here's my question. Now, he's trying to file a suit against LSU.
Yes.
And this is college. So it was a few years ago. He was in high school. What if he caught it in high school? Could he sue the high school?
Well, he's suing the school for negligence because...
I'm saying, if they caught it in high school, could they sue the high school for negligence? Because I know our physicals are not that extraneous when we was in high school. You see what I'm saying? Had they caught that and could he sue the high school?
I don't see how he could prove the school. If he wasn't having any of these issues in high school, then they would have had no way of detecting it.
So that's why I'm saying, how can you sue the college? If you can you can't sue the high school. The point I'm trying to make is they found out in college that he has it. Now, just say they found out if he was in high school that he had it. You're trying to sue LSU. My question is, could you have tried to sue your high school had you caught it then? Get what I'm saying?
I honestly don't get it, but I understand why he's suing the school, because they continue to tell him to play football even though he was saying he wasn't feeling well.
Oh, they press. Okay, well then that changes the game.
That
changes the game now.
That's where the negligence comes in.
Yeah.
Well, even still, if and I understand that they're trying to make him play, but at the end of the day, man, as an individual, man, you make your own choices. If you know you feel ill and you don't feel well enough to get out there and play, don't get out there and play.
I hear you, Slash, but again, man, on these D1 schools, it's hard enough getting PT as it is.
Yeah.
So if you're already starting and you're doing pretty fairly well in this position, to be threatened that your spot is going to be taken,
right?
And it just to imagine how hard it would be just to get back in that status.
So it's the pressures.
Man, that stuff starts when they're in Little League.
Right. You're right about that.
Their brains and their minds are an athlete's mind, not just football players. When they start in Little League, they're conditioned to play through pain. Mm-hmm. That's why in some cases you may have a coach that asks you, are you hurt or are you injured? Because if you're injured,
you can still play.
You can't play.
You can't play with an injury.
But if you hurt,
you can still play.
You can play.
Okay.
Because you got people that play hurt all the time.
Right.
Yeah. So it's best to say you injured.
Well, you got to think. You're conditioned this way. So your pain level is higher than the average person. Mm-hmm. You're conditioned that way. Hey, man, I got to get out here and ball. Oh, man, I broke my finger. Oh, man, put some tape on it and tape it up. Man, I can still go out there and ball.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it all the time. Watching sports, how an athlete to get hurt and go back in, and we really don't know the severity of that injury.
Even boxing, they do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, in Little League, some of them kids, man, they be playing hurt.
It's crazy, man. And see, that's another thing that tells me, how can you? And I understand you suing for negligence, but still, you still have the option to say, no, coach, I'm injured.
But will it affect their grant or their scholarship?
It affected his whole life. He can't even walk no more.
Check it out. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing with that. If you're conditioned a certain way, you don't really know if this even makes sense. When your mind is conditioned a certain way and you got a certain level of pain tolerance, sometimes you don't know the severity of your injury. Sometimes you just don't.
So let me just use this as an example. I do music. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wear headphones a lot. Mm-hmm. I turn the headphones up loud. Mm-hmm. I love music. I'm conditioned to do something musically daily. Mm-hmm. But when I got a headache, I personally say, you know what? I can't put no headphones and listen to no music. I got a goddamn headache. Mm-hmm. That's an injury for me. I'm not going to put myself into a situation where it's something that I can't stand for something that I love. So you have to know how to make...
I get you. So let me ask you a question. Now, I won't know the answer to this question unless you're 100% honest with me. Sometimes when you're not listening to music and you're still and you're by yourself, do you have a ringing in your ear?
No.
Well, there are some people that do have ringings in their ears, and that's called tinnitus. But they'll have that ringing, and they'll still listen to music that loud, or listen to how they're going to listen to their music. So they'll push through it.
I got it even better. Say Dr. Dre calls you and say, I need a beat. I'll give you $1.5 million tomorrow. And your headache kicked in right now.
I'm going to get some BC powder and we finna get that.
All right.
But I'm not doing it while I got a headache. I'm going to wait. I'm going to get this BC powder.
So what makes you think
so I can be comfortable doing what I need to do?
That guy that had vertigo. What's his name again, Keith?
Greg Brooks Jr.
What makes you think he ain't gonna get BC powder? Think he was all right?
Well, BC powder doesn't affect. I mean, it doesn't help on something that he may have, but there probably is medicine. But again, this was a misdiagnosis. You don't know what medicine you need on something that you can't diagnose.
Yeah, true.
We hear coaches all the time. Well, if we're involved in sports, you hear them say, "Play through it all the time." And like Freddie G said, that's embedded in their head as a child when they start playing Little League football.
Yeah.
So you can imagine you go through Little League football to middle school, high school, on to that collegiate level. Mm-hmm. So by the time you get to that collegiate level, if you're a star athlete, this is programmed in your head to if you get injured or it's programmed in your head to play through injuries.
So how does the parents feel? I know you've mentioned something about the parents was wondering why the coach hadn't, spoke out or whatever. But what is it that the coach can say? What is he? Are they expecting an apology? I mean, what are they expecting from the coach?
Not necessarily an apology, but wholesome accountability for because they left their child in this man's hands, pretty much. He, in the decision he made, they would think, I'm assuming they would have thought that he had their child's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And then for something this drastic to happen and then you not reach out kind of shows, in my opinion, you didn't care. You don't care.
Man, it's sad.
It can look that way.
That's sad, bro.
I can see them. I don't see them winning the suit because of. However, I can't see the school saying, you know what, we'll pay for his medical expenses, because again, I can't put the onus on the school.
So if there's a malpractice lawsuit, here's where I could see the guy winning.
You said winning.
Winning.
Okay.
If they go and they did all of the tests involving scans and all of this stuff, and they didn't see the tumor the first time around, and they say, oh, you just had vertigo, but they did all of the necessary tests to see everything, and they say, no, you just had vertigo, then he continues to complain, and he comes back and they do the same exact tests, and they say, oh, here's a tumor, and it's the size of a golf ball. Now I can see a malpractice because the first time y'all did these exact same tests
and couldn't find it,
and you didn't see it,
right?
And you told me, and you misdiagnosed me,
right,
by saying I had vertigo. But now there's nothing different that changed. Y'all did the same tests, and now y'all tell me y'all see this tumor. Explain to me how y'all missed it the first time. Now I can see the winnings.
I cannot.
Versus, oh, you got vertigo, and they do whatever tests to do vertigo, but then he still starts to complain, and they do further tests that ramp up in more detail.
Well, I can't see it because how many people actually go out and get second opinions? That means the first doctor that got it wrong, you could sue them. There would be so many lawsuits. So that would be basically the same as getting a second opinion. Just because the first doctor didn't catch it doesn't mean that first doctor should get sued. The second doctor caught it.
Here's what I would say to that.
Just a better doctor.
Here's what I would say to that. When you say that there will be so many lawsuits, what I would say to that is you're absolutely right. And those so many lawsuits, a lot of those people have won those lawsuits based upon a second opinion. So you got some people that are pursue a lawsuit versus other people that just like, I got a second opinion, and they don't pursue that lawsuit. So at the end of the day, if you go and get a second opinion, some people just say, you know what, they should have caught, these first people should have caught that. I'm gonna sue them because they didn't catch it.
Okay.
So you can
makes sense. Okay.
Let me backtrack here and try to go over the scenario again. Okay, Greg Brooks Jr. Reported, being dizzy at practice on several occasions, and the team diagnosed him with just having vertigo. He continued to complain about the issues, which caused him to have emergency surgery, where they removed the tumor. It was after the tumor was removed when he was diagnosed to have the red brain cancer, which was called medulloblastoma. And this is where what I don't understand is how that couldn't have been diagnosed prior to the tumor or during the time the tumor was diagnosed.
I can tell you why it wasn't. Because in order for you to know that it was cancer, you had to remove the tumor to test it. So once they saw the tumor, they removed the tumor and they test the tumor. And they found out that it wasn't benign. So they had to test the tumor to find out that it was cancerous. You wouldn't know it was cancerous until you removed it.
It makes sense. I just hate, this young man, like I said, after having the surgery, and it was a successful surgery, and it was reported that the cancer didn't spread. Thank God. I just hate, though, to see this young man struggling to talk during the interview on GMA. Was heartwarming. Because again, 5 years ago, this young man was able to run and play football at a high level, and now, he's barely able to move his own limbs at all on his own, and will probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. This is just something to think about, to all these athletes out there. If you're hurt, report your injury and stand your ground on it, because again, this could definitely impact, the rest of your life. I appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you like us on the like the show. Come back and join us next week. Peace out. This concludes another True Tuesday episode, and be sure you tune in tomorrow for another episode of Women Wednesday with Freddie G. Don't forget to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and or subscribe. And to all my 52 Scott faithfuls, it may be new to you, but if you heard it here, then you know it's true.